We just got some breaking news that I think we're going to be breaking for you as well. That's just transpired in the last couple of minutes, according to TSN's Darren Dreger, that involves the Sens. A
Oh,
contract extension for Shane Pinto.
okay, can I guess? Can I guess?
Yes,
How many? Is it 8 years?
it is
No.
not 8 years.
Okay, so we'll say 4 years, 28 million, $30 million.
Exactly. Wow, I had to do the math in my head there.
You're an expert.
4 years, 7.5 million per season
Oh,
for 30.
what a
Look
day!
at Mike Johnson.
Oh,
Wow. So I think 8 years is what I think Senator fans would have liked to have seen. There's been lots of talk that Shane Pinto maybe was more interested in a shorter term deal. He's still a
hmm
couple of years away from unrestricted free agency, so you're quotes buying some of the unrestricted years as well. But just an initial thought. Obviously, you'd thought about this contract, so that comes in right about where you probably thought it was going to.
apparently. I mean, good for Shane Pinto. He's gotten off to a fantastic start to his season. Like if we're being honest, he's a 20 goal scorer. No, not this year, but he scored 20 goals basically 3 years in a row. The one year he played half the season, he had 9. So he's essentially a 20 goal scorer. He is a 40 to 50 point scorer. He has been that. But I think the contract tells you that the Sens believes he can be much more than that offensively, but also the Sens value all the other stuff he does. Like you have Stutzla, you have Dylan Cousins, you have sort of two more offensively minded guys. They have a third, if you're going to call him a third line center, a third line center who can score offense, but also be responsible, take face-offs, match up against the other best teams. Some of Shane Pinto's best action has been, when I watch him play against the Maple Leafs and go against Austin Matthews. I'm like, that guy, Pinto, is physically strong enough and it matters enough to him to go up against the best players in the world, and he can do it. And I think, the contract sort of reflects that as well. The 4 years to me is interesting. I'm not here, it's not negative. I think you're going to see more and more players go short term. The cap is continuing to go up. Players love security, and 4 years and $30 million gives you that.
Mm-hmm.
But I think they are growing to appreciate flexibility, and that doesn't mean flexibility to necessarily leave Ottawa, or Austin Matthews signed 4 years in Toronto. Like it happens, but it's more flexibility to get back to the bargaining table and do it again. Because if you think you're a good player, your price is never going down, and he will be what, 29?
He just turned 25. He just turned 25 yesterday. It was his actual birthday yesterday. So
birthday treat. Yeah,
exactly.
30 candles on that thing.
Yeah.
So he'll be 29 years old or whatever, 30 years old, still young enough to get another 4, 5, 6, 7 year contract if that's what he wants to do in 4 years. And you give yourself flexibility to see how your team's doing and what your life is like and your family, and like lots of things change between 25 and 30, and maybe your priorities change. So you get the flexibility. It should not be taken as a personal slight to Ottawa that he doesn't want to be here. It's more he just wants a little security and a little flexibility, and find the blend of both.
Well, and the other part of it is, again, 4 years is still with the rest of this year. I mean, he's contractually obligated to Ottawa for 5 more seasons, but it is short enough, as you like. There's not that he's not a motivated player, but there's a motivation there because we know players get contracts a lot based on numbers, and when it comes to a couple of years out from the next contract. Again, we'll see how it all plays out with him, but he's motivated to put up some numbers because the next contract is not that far down the road.
You want to allude to all the time, well, it's a contract year. Like, that's a bad thing. That's not a bad thing. Like, if you're going to be in a contract year every year or every 2 or 3 years, and it motivates you to be well prepared and be productive, and knowing that, it's not just about intangibles, but putting up numbers because your financial future depends on it, that's not a bad thing. And Shane Pinto will be in that situation in a few years. So, I mean, good for him. Steve Staios gets some business done. And now, if you look at the guys that are signed up for the next 4 years, it's, the core of this team that they believe is going to be a contending team are all going to be here. There's not a lot of volatility up top. I mean, Brady Tkachuk has 2 more years. That's the biggest one, I suppose. Drake Batherson has 1 more. He's off to a great start. But between Stutzla and Cousins and now Pinto and Sanderson, Shabbat's got a couple more in Omar. So you're looking at this year and at least 2 more for everyone before anyone has to think about anything.
Right.
So that's a pretty big runway for them to try to take a deep run in the playoffs.
Yeah. Do you, as you kind of project out, and you mentioned that Shane Pinto is an excellent two-way center. Do you foresee a day when, and I don't know how it all shake out, because Stützle is a number one offensive center. There's no disputing that, and that will be the story for as long as he's here in Ottawa. But is there a world that exists where Shane Pinto maybe gets a little more of a, I'll call it air quotes, an offensive opportunity by playing, a second line center? I don't know where that leaves Dylan Cousins. Does he play the wing? Is he or do you just you write him in pen? He's my shutdown third line, can contribute offensively, and for all the time I'm here. If you're Travis Green,
I mean, I think ideally you have a 1-2-3 punch, and Stützle could do a bit both ways, and he's dynamic. And then Cousins is clearly an offensive guy, not a great defensive player at this point in his career. And Pinto can certainly play excellent defense and doesn't have to be force-fed offensive situations. So it gives you a little bit of everything there. Now, I would expect Shane Pinto to get a lot of these sort of periphery offensive options. So whether that's power play unit, certainly second power play unit, but he could play on the first power play unit if it came to that. 4-on-4, 3-on-3 in overtime, goalie out. He can get all those other sort of extra little tastes of offense, even if his regular line has a slightly more defensive slant. And he's playing right now with Claude Giroux, who's a pretty good offensive player. And if you have your wingers, and there's enough of them, I think it's important that Shane Pinto gets talented players, because he's a talented player that can score goals. You don't want to just bury him with a couple plumbers that can't do anything. And right now, Ottawa is not in a situation where they have to do that. So with Cousins' game being the way it is right now, you don't foresee Pinto taking the second line offensive situations, because then Cousins would be miscast in a third line, if you're going to call it that, defensive-minded role.
Right. I mean, you had a really, really nice career. Can you just imagine for a second as a player, you're signing a contract that guarantees you $30 million? What that is, the money is astronomical. It's beyond the scope of what most of us can think about. You were kind of in that sphere a little bit, what that is like, that's knowing the security that you have and everything that goes with that.
Oh, it's not lost on me that the first 3 years of my career, I had more points than Shane Pinto's had in his career and more goals. Now, he's a center. I was a winger, but I also killed penalties.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Timing is everything.
But listen, the way I look at it, Jared, is talk to talk to Daryl Sittler, talk to Steve Thomas, talk to guys who were better than me, who played before me, who didn't make nearly the same kind of money that I made. But it's amazing. And it's amazing how it seems to have grown, honestly, in the last 2 years, where, Shane Pinto in the COVID years or prior to COVID, he might be grinding for $4 million, which is still incredible. But it's something different about, for a guy who is not a bona fide superstar offensive producer, to get $7.5 million and no one even think, well, that's a lot. We all just say, yeah, I guessed it to the number because that's what guys like him make. It's amazing. And I think, obviously I want the players to make every single cent that they can. But it also, to me, it's so much money now that chasing money, the dynamic of what is most important to players is going to shift a little bit. Because it almost always used to be, understandably, I need to get the most money I can get. Because Shane Pinto, in my generation, would be lucky to make $1.8 million. But if he can make $2.8 million somewhere else, that's more important because it's so much more money than the other alternative. But now if it's 7 or 7.5 or 8, it's all so much. His life is set forever, as will his kids' lives be and his kids' lives be if he does everything properly, that chasing every cent becomes less important, and chasing success, lifestyle, comfort, all those other things become far more to the top of the list than just the money, because the money is so big wherever you go. And that is a different dynamic for teams to sort of work through as this is transitioning right in front of our eyes.
Right. And just to reset, if people are just jumping on, Shane Pinto has just been announced he's got a 4-year extension with the Sens at $7.5 million per season. So that makes him signed into Ottawa through 2030. The 7.5 figure on Pinto puts him kind of right in the range of what the other kind of core players are making with the Sens. Like Tim Stützle is the high guy at 8.35. Then you got Brady and Ullmark at 8.25. Sanderson at 8. Cousins at 7.1. Drake Batherson, who, as you said, is up at the end of the next hockey season after this one, is at 5. Do you believe, like, again, the money is astronomical now, that internal team caps will still exist with teams? Is it important to general managers? What's the dynamic like? I don't ever think that Shane Pinto was a threat to get paid more than anybody else on the Sens, given where he's at. But like, just kind of take us through the internal dressing room dynamics of sometimes guys who aren't the best player getting paid way more because they signed their contract at the right time. Is there such a thing or not in today's day and age?
A little bit. I mean, and it's sort of creeping more back into it. McDavid doing what he's doing, and in Montreal, I think with Suzuki taking a bit less and Hudson taking a bit less, it sort of sets the table for others to be expected to do the same. So I don't think the dynamic, if there's any sort of interplay between how much money you're making, it will not be about Tim Stützle being upset that someone who signs 5 years after he does makes more than him. Like, he's smart enough to realize the cap's gone up 35%.
Right.
We're not saying he's a better player. That's how it works. What will the teams will have to be mindful of will be if some players have clearly and obviously, and I don't know if Ottawa has any guys like this. I think everyone signed an appropriate contract for when they signed it. But if Brady were to re-sign and say, I'll take $9 million, let's just say, that is clearly less than he would get elsewhere. Then that precedent has been established. And if the next guy, and then Tim Stützle steps in, is like, I don't want to take $9 million, I want 12 because that's what I can get elsewhere. That dynamic becomes difficulty. It's not about you're making more than me. It's that you took every cent and I did not. And I did what I did for the benefit of the team. You weren't willing to do that. That might cause some friction, not the actual dollar amount. That's the one element of this new world that teams are working through. But no, it's not so much about the money. People are smart enough to understand why guys get paid more. They're not quite as productive.
Yeah, I've been sort of prepping people like the Brady, if he wants to, the Brady Tkachuk next contract, and especially if he is at the forefront of an American victory at the Olympics with what he did at the Four Nations. Now he's a podcaster with his brother. Yeah. Like they are in many ways, especially in the U.S., they are the face of the NHL. He's a big personality. And obviously he's a really great player and a unicorn and everything else that's used to describe him. Like, if he wants to, he'll be able to in his next contract. He can absolutely break the bank.
Yes, 100%. For all the reasons you just said, and what will make him so attractive on the ice, off the ice, marketing, all that stuff, leadership, face of the franchise, and community. Like, all the things outside of just being such a good player or borderline great player in the way that he plays. Like the numbers we're seeing is he, he might not score quite like whoever, Adrian Kempe. But if Adrian Kempe is going to make $11-something million this year, Marty Necas, perfect example. Marty Necas, right? He makes $11.5 million. Now, Necas might have a few more points than Brady Tkachuk. But if anyone were to say, for this playoff series, you could have Marty Necas or Brady Tkachuk. Who do you want? I think most people would pick Brady. So can he push in 2 years? If the cap keeps going like it's supposed to be, it's $125 million. He's going to get 12, 13, 14. I don't even know where it goes for him, but he will have options both here in Ottawa. And if he were to elect to look elsewhere, there would be there'll be 31 teams. Maybe then there'll be 33 teams. I mean, seriously, you never know. There might be more teams, more money, all the rest of it, looking for players of his caliber and his character. And Ottawa knows this, Andlauer knows this, Staios knows this, and Brady knows this. That's the thing. The player understands this as well. Yep. And so, that negotiation will be interesting.
Interesting, yeah. It does not have to take place, at least for another couple of seasons, so we'll wait on that.